Picture this for a second. There's a man, right? He's sitting by this miraculous healing spring. For literally years, he's been suffering from an ailment, and the absolute perfect cure is right there, just inches away. All he has to do is dip himself into the water. But year after year, he just sits on the edge, and his condition keeps getting worse. Finally, someone comes up to him and asks, "Hey, why don't you just get in?" And you know what he says? "I'm waiting for someone to push me from behind." Wow. Welcome to the Beyond Now channel for this deep dive explainer. Today, we're unpacking the profound philosophy of personal change, taking real responsibility, the unexpected dangers of prosperity, and how to actually find true balance in life. So let's really think about that. That metaphor of the man by the spring, it perfectly captures this terrifying human tendency we all have. We wait. We just wait. We wait for external forces, or maybe for some huge crisis, or for someone else to come along and just force us to change our lives. It's like we're constantly outsourcing our own rescue. But the core theme we are exploring today is that taking action is a solo requirement. It is entirely on you. If you just sit there waiting for the push, you might end up waiting forever.
Which brings us to our first major concept, stagnation and personal change.
You know, the human brain is unfortunately wired to completely ignore slow decline. And that brings us to the massive danger of just playing it safe. Take the classic business case of Nokia versus Apple. It's actually fascinating because Nokia had the ideas for early smartphones, but there was this massive internal resistance to change. We naturally equate our current stable situation with safety. But here's the thing, life isn't built on static safety, it's built on dynamic movement. Apple executed rapidly and literally crushed them. Resisting dynamic movement just because you want to hold on to what feels safe, that is the absolute fastest track to obsolescence.
Now, what's really interesting here is this concept of the accumulative effect. The danger of slowing down is that it's creeping. It sneaks up on you. Think about it. If a child falls and scrapes their knee, there is immediate blood, immediate crying, and boom, an immediate trip to the doctor or the medicine cabinet. But what about the accumulative negative effects of smart devices on a child's developing brain? It goes completely unnoticed, day by day, until the impact is massive and sometimes irreversible. Our minds are just programmed to react to direct, immediate threats, which makes slow stagnation incredibly dangerous.
Let's move right into part 2, taking absolute responsibility.
This whole idea is summarized perfectly by a really powerful quote. Either you make what happens to you or you let what happens to you happen. This is basically Stephen Covey's first habit in action, proactivity. We absolutely have to stop outsourcing our happiness. You cannot rely on anyone else. Not your boss, not your friends, not even your spouse. Nobody is uniquely responsible for your internal joy or your personal development but you. Actually, if someone wronged you and you are just sitting around waiting for them to come to their senses, you are letting life happen to you. You are the sole architect of your reality.
Okay, on to section 3, and this one is fascinating, the betrayal of prosperity.
This is such a counterintuitive but honestly brilliant concept. The betrayal of prosperity is this phenomenon where continuous luxury actually betrays us. Think about it. If a person, a company, or even an entire nation lives in absolute, unchallenged comfort, what happens when they face a sudden obstacle? They shatter. Why? Because excessive comfort literally strips away our resilience. We become fragile. Hardship, ironically enough, is exactly what fortifies us against the unpredictability of life. To put that into perspective, just look at this historical timeline. Post-World War II Germany in 1945 was completely devastated. Divided, stripped of industry, they hit absolute rock bottom. Yet, by 1954, less than a single decade later, they won the World Cup against a heavily favored Hungarian team after losing to them earlier in the tournament. And by 1957, they hosted their first massive heavy industry exhibition. How is that even possible? Because hitting rock bottom and facing severe hardship forges an unparalleled aggressive strength. They didn't have the luxury of prosperity to betray them. They only had the absolute necessity of recovery to drive them forward.
So, how do we handle all this? That brings us to section 4, finding balance in life.
It's great to be driven, right? But we absolutely have to balance that drive with actionable frameworks for our everyday living, or we are going to burn out. You've probably heard the story of the woodcutter's dilemma, but its application here is absolutely vital. A woodcutter is hired to chop a massive amount of wood on a super tight deadline, so he's chopping frantically. A neighbor walks by and says, "Hey, why don't you stop and sharpen your saw? It'll go way faster." The woodcutter yells back, "I don't have time to stop, I'm too busy chopping." It's absurd, right? But we do this constantly in our own lives. We get so busy grinding that we flat out refuse to stop and sharpen our own physical, mental, and emotional tools.
And part of sharpening that saw is realizing you cannot revolve your entire existence around a single axis. Whether it's the relentless pursuit of wealth, chasing a fancy job title, or even hyperfixating on a spouse or a child, making someone or something your absolute sole focus, it's a recipe for disaster. It totally destroys your own life balance, and frankly, it suffocates the person you are fixated on. The most dignified thing you can give someone is their freedom, not your obsessive dependence.
I absolutely love this next story. It's so profound. A group of workers were hired to carry heavy goods and were incentivized to run as fast as possible to beat a deadline. Near the end of the journey, they suddenly just dropped everything, lay on their backs, and started looking up at the sky, laughing in the rain. When the furious boss demanded to know why they stopped, they just replied, "Our souls ran ahead of our bodies, and we are waiting for our souls to return so we can continue." Wow. Sometimes in this crazy fast-paced world, you just have to let your cup cool down. Stop rushing blindly. Let your soul catch up to your body. Finally, let's look at Section 5, Redefining Happiness. This is where we look at the actual attainment of internal peace, which the source material structures perfectly. It outlines this beautifully through 4 Arabic words that all start with a T, which we can basically translate as the fundamental pillars of happiness. First, enjoy what you have right now. Don't wait for some perfectly sunny day to be happy. Second, let go of what burdens you, those unrealistic expectations or toxic ties. Third, imagine loss to build your appreciation. And fourth, adapt to your reality. True happiness is entirely internal, guys. If you tie your mood to changing external conditions, your mood is never going to permanently improve.
Let's actually zero in on that third point for a second. Imagining loss. This is a classic Stoic tool known as negative visualization. We have this really tragic tendency to only appreciate things once they're already gone. We bring a whole garden of flowers to a grave, but couldn't be bothered to give a single rose to the person while they were alive. It's sad, but true. By mentally imagining the loss of someone you love or the life you currently enjoy, you immediately anchor your appreciation for them right now in the present moment. It's a total game changer. It literally cures our blindness to the blessings we currently hold.
Okay, so what about adapting to reality? How do we deal with problems we just can't change? The source shares a great anecdote of a woman constantly stressed out by her highly critical 90-year-old mother. The advice she got was simple, but paradigm shifting. Step 1. Acknowledge her bones are as set as her thoughts. She is not going to change. Step 2. Stop exhausting yourself trying to change her. Step 3. Change your own response. Start valuing her mere presence in your life as a blessing rather than an obstacle. When you cannot alter the environment or the people in it, your only remaining power is altering your response.
Have you ever stopped to consider how heavy an invisible burden really is? To maintain a positive response to life, you've got to let go of those burdens. The great poet Ahmad Shawki once addressed an Olympic weightlifter, marveling at how easily the athlete lifted massive iron. But the poet asked, "Have you ever carried a heavy soul? Have you ever carried the weight of a grudge?" It's so true. Physical iron is incredibly light compared to the crushing, invisible weight of an unforgiving heart. Carrying a grudge hurts the container holding it way more than the target it's meant for.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this piece of wisdom regarding our imperfect relationships. Take what is easy from them and let life move on. Look, no one is flawless. We aren't angels, and we really shouldn't demand angelic perfection from our spouses, our friends, or our coworkers. Weigh their good against their bad. If the good outweighs the bad, just forgive the rest. Give people grace. And hey, give yourself grace for your own foolish mistakes too.
You have the power to enact change, to take absolute responsibility, and to find that crucial balance between pushing hard and letting your soul catch up. To continue this journey of personal awakening, I highly recommend you watch the previous explainer titled Why So Many People Feel Lost After 40. It is going to perfectly connect the dots we've laid out today. Stop sitting by the spring waiting for someone to push you in. It's time to jump. Because think about it, if the cure was right in front of you this whole time, what excuse do you really have left for not jumping in?